Um, Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you all for joining this panel on how to join the quantum workforce. My name is Florian Karl. I'm the manager of the Yale Quantum Institute, and I'll be one of the moderators for this panel. So we are delighted to continue this series of talks and panel that are organized jointly with the engineering workforce development of the Center for Quantum Network in Arizona and the Yale Quantum Institute. This is the third panel in our series on focusing to prepare today on how to get a job, or like how to put all your chances on your side to get a job in academia and to become assistant professor or have any faculty position. So we wanted to offer this series of professional development panels because building quantum technology really requires a lot of people from different backgrounds. We need physicists, electrical engineer, computer scientists, software engineer, chemists, and it can be a little bit overwhelming to consider all the options and all the career you can have in the field of quantum science and information. So today we'll hear from postdocs and recent faculty members that will talk about their experience on what it's like to work in the field of quantum and get advice on navigating the various pathways to do an academic career. So my colleague, Russell Balliet, who is the assistant director of the Center for Quantum Network, will serve as a moderator, and I will let him introduce himself and talk a little bit more about the center.
Yep. So as Florian said, I'm Russell Balliet. I'm the assistant director for engineering workforce development for the Center of Quantum Networks, who is a new center and just kind of getting started, and we'll be laying the foundations for the quantum networks and the technologies, as well as looking at the societal impacts. And part of the reason we want to do this panel is to help develop the engineering workforce development and give you all a little bit of information about how you can join the quantum workforce.
Thank you. And then you have on my webcam some information about the center, and so you can also subscribe to the YouTube channel to have all the information about this center. So before we introduce the rest of the panelists, I want to walk you through a little bit of housekeeping. So we are recording this event, and so it'll be available in replay if you want. And then you can use the chat, the Q&A feature in Zoom. So at the bottom, you should have two speech bubbles. You can just ask all your questions, and then we'll try to go through all of them, so you can have really like a better understanding on what it will take to get one of these positions. Okay, so let's start by introducing our panelists. So please, you can feel free to turn on your webcams, and we'll start with Linran Fan from the University of Arizona.
Hi, everyone. So I'm Linran. So right now I'm an assistant professor at College of Optical Sciences at University of Arizona. So I graduated from Yale University in electrical engineering in 2017. So it's good to see some familiar names from YQI. So I spent 6 years on Hill House Avenue. Yeah, so right now I'm part of the CQN, the Center for Quantum Network Center. So right now my group is working on quantum integrated photonics, and especially related to quantum sensing and continuous variable quantum information. And right now in my group, I have 2 postdocs and 6 graduate students. So yeah, and I actually joined the faculty of University of Arizona in 2018, I think, yeah. So I just passed my 3-year mid review actually. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask me. Thank you.
The 3-year mid review is always a little bit stressful, I guess. Good luck with that.
Not too bad. Yeah.
Shruti, do you want to go introduce yourself?
Yeah. Hi, my name is Shruti, and I'm an assistant in the Applied Physics Department at Yale. I just started last year in July, so I'm still quite new. And I'm a theorist. I work in quantum information theory. I've always been interested in quantum mechanics. Like, when I was in high school, I heard about the fact that particles can interfere like waves and so on, and so that just blew my mind. So I knew I wanted to study quantum mechanics further. And then when I came to grad school, I was very intrigued by the fact that you could compute using the principles of quantum mechanics. Like, you can imagine building an operating system based on quantum mechanics. So that was just completely bizarre. And I just wanted to be a part of this mysterious field. And so, that's how my journey started. And now, I just started my group last year. I have 2 graduate students, 1 postdoc, and 2 new graduate students are joining us this fall. And I also have an undergrad working with the team. So that's my story.
Perfect. Thank you very much. And then, so this is, so Linran and Shruti can tell us about their experience as a recent faculty member. And then we also wanted to include Anderson Brito, who's the co-chair of the Yale Postdoctoral Association. And so you can introduce yourself, please.
Yeah, so thank you very much for having me here today. It's really a pleasure to be here sharing a little bit of my experience as a postdoc. I am not a quantum scientist, let's say. I am a biologist with a master's in virology and a PhD in computational biology. So I have this very interdisciplinary sort of background. And as was just said by Florian, I am here basically representing the Yale Postdoctoral Association as one of the co-chairs currently. And I got invited by Florian, which was one of our co-chairs in the past and a founder member of this Yale Association. And it's really nice to be here today to share a little bit of my experience as a postdoc at Yale. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And yes, do never underestimate the power of networking, because even if I haven't met you, I will reach out to you and we can do great things. So okay, let's kickstart this meeting. And we're gonna answer some of the question. And so I think the first one that comes in mind when we think about faculty member is the stress as postdocs and as senior grad students of, ooh, how can I find a faculty position, and like what are the steps? And so can we have either Shruti or Linran go over the process of like what are all the steps that you took to get this position, and you can answer that from any angles that you thought would be helpful. Maybe we can start by Shruti. Okay.
Yeah, so for me, the process was, you basically hear about, you have to keep an eye. Okay, so for me, I kind of was looking where I wanted to be. And so I kept an eye on the hiring market in those particular universities. And also, like, my colleagues knew that I was looking, so they would forward me, any announcements made about hiring at their university. So you can be proactive in looking for open positions at places, or, you can obviously take help from your colleagues about this. And once usually the process starts around September, October, you kind of know where you want to go by September, and then the deadlines for applications are around October, December, sometimes late December. So you basically prepare your application process, which is like your CV. You have to write a research statement. Basically, you want to, in your research statement, you want to convey the things that you want to do in the next 5 years or so in your research group. And then, you have to write a teaching statement. Sometimes you have to write diversity statements. And then, there's blank. You just have to wait after all the applications are sent in. You just have to wait and have faith that somebody's actually found your application and is reading it. And eventually you'll, hear from places. They'll sometimes they call you to have like a phone interview, which is usually like maybe 30 minutes. Sometimes it's even shorter. And then if you go through that, then they'll call for in-person interviews. So I had, in some cases, both phone interviews and in-person interviews. And then again, there's a blank. You wait for a long time to hear back, and sometimes you have to ping them and be like, hey, where is the application process at? So yeah, that was my overall experience. Maybe I missed something. Ellen, do you want to add in?
Yeah, so I think you probably cover all the aspects of the faculty search, but my experience is a little bit different. I mean, at Florian and Anderson, and also Shruti, you mentioned that networking is actually quite important. So the reason why I got this position is actually, I was quite lucky that when I was a postdoc, so I was not prepared for a faculty position at that time. And I was approached by some colleagues that I knew when I was a graduate student. And also I got some information from my advisors. And so, okay, there's a faculty position, I think that can fit you well, and why don't you apply it? And then applied, and that's how I got it. And the preparation is quite similar, right? So we need to prepare the CV, write the research statement, and the teaching statement, diversity statement, and all kinds of stuff. And also normally we need to give like 2 talks. One is the research talk about your works. One is like a talk to present your research ideas for your future group. So, and I think both of them are very important. And the research talk present your capability, and the talk will show how you will lead the group as an independent researcher. I think that's also very important. Especially nowadays, I believe most universities, when they post the faculty position, they kind of have a idea what kind of background, what kind of person they are looking for. So if your your future plan matches their idea, I think that will be very helpful. Yeah.
How many applications? Can you give us a ratio of like how many applications did you send? How many responses did you get? Because we always hear like there's more production of PhDs than position available, which I think in quantum we're in a weird bubble these days. I calculated that last year there was 161 faculty position open in the US in quantum. So it's quite a lot for the field. It's a very hot topic, but like, can you give us a ratio of how many interview, or like how many position did you interview for, and like how many offered you? Like, you can also keep that confidential. Just give us like a bulk order if you don't want to like disclose any of the other things.
So for me, sorry, no, go ahead, Lauren.
No, Shruti, I think you can go ahead, because my case is not common.
Right. So for me, I actually went through the job market twice. One was 2018, 2019 round, and then the other one was 2019, 2020 round. So in the first round, when I applied, there were much fewer quantum jobs open. I think there was, I can't remember exactly how many, but I think it was like around 5-ish or more universities that I applied to, but none of them actually said quantum information in it. A lot of times they, send out, a more general call. So unless you have an inside idea about what they're exactly looking for, you don't know. And I just wanted to get an experience. So I, get out the bad interviews before. And so I was like, yeah, I'm going to apply and see how it goes. So that in that round, I got one interview, and that I didn't get a job. Fortunately, I didn't get a job so that I could get a job at Yale. So I'm very happy about that. So in the second round, the second year, the 2019-2020 year, it was like amazing year for quantum. As Florian said, there were so many job openings in our field. And again, I think I applied to about 8-9 universities or so. I think I pretty much got calls from everybody except maybe 2 places. And so it was a very stressful time because, you know, these job interviews take 2 days and like at least 2 or 3 days. And then you're basically on from 8 in the morning to 8 in the night. And yeah, so yeah, like I said, I didn't get called, I think from 2 places, maybe 3. I got in-person interviews. And then I got offers from a few places. Again, very lucky because I know that during that time, many people's offers were withdrawn due to the pandemic. Fortunately, that did not happen for me. And yeah, that's when I landed at Yale.
Yeah, my experience is not, because I was approached by some colleagues. So actually in 2018, I just applied here. The only place I applied is University of Arizona. And and luckily I got this position. And after interview, I found, okay, this is a good place. And I like the environment and the research, and it has all the capabilities that I need for my experiments. So I just decided to join. But from my experience talking to other colleagues, so yeah, the ratio is not good. But it's not bad. So as I think probably on average, 1/3 will get a call, and normally, so people, university will invite like around 3 to 8 people for on-site interview, and they will have a waiting list. And if you are in the top 3, then I think you have a pretty high chance, because normally like Shruti, you will get offers from several places and you can only accept one. So then for other places, if you decline that offer, the second person on that list will be offered the position, right? So that's why Shruti mentioned a lot of blanket times, right? So there will be a lot of waiting time during the faculty search. Yeah.
We have a question in the Q&A. How long did it take for you to prepare your research and teaching statements? So in preparing for the interviews, was any aspect of it particularly challenging? So
actually it's not long, normally just 1 page or 2 pages. So not long, but it takes a lot of time to prepare that 2-page research statement, I believe. And yeah, I think the key is that you need to kind of make a connection to your previous background, but you need to find a new angle to distinguish yourself. I think that's probably the most challenging part for myself.
I was actually trying to open up my research statement to see how long it was, but I was not fast enough. For me, it was much longer.
So I think the question is not about the size of the research statement, but more like
how much time. But yeah, it depends on also how long you have to make it, right? But like I started preparing my research statement like over the summer, because there's a lot of thought that goes in there. You have to show them that you are capable of conducting new research and support, X graduate students over the next 5 years. So you have to show them that, you're capable of building this whole research program. You're not a postdoc anymore. You're not just going to work on this one little project. You're going to like lead a huge group. So it takes a lot of time and effort. And, the teaching statement, I spend much less time compared to the research statement. It is less important than, well, it's not less important, it's equally important, but it's, it's usually only 2 pages. So it goes a bit faster than the research statement. And then you have to write it early on so that you have time to send it to your colleagues, your advisor, to get feedback from them. Yeah. So basically I would say by September end, at least it should be ready. And you should already be getting feedback from your colleagues.
Thank you both. Imran, you were talking about the fact that your case was a little bit special because you sort of got picked up by like one of your colleagues. And so I would like to talk about the importance of networking and connection in this field. How did you start building your network? And then was it like your direct colleague, or was it like a more extended network of researcher and fellow colleague?
So it's more extended networks. So because yeah, quantum information, especially within the US, so it's even though it's fastly growing, but it's not a huge community. So I guess most people know each other in the field. And in many cases, maybe your advisor will some collaborative projects with some professors in other universities. And if the other university has a faculty opening, they will reach out to your advisor and also to some institutes like YQI. So that's how I know this position. Yeah.
And so the reason I was asking about networking is because we in the US and I think in many universities in the world, they're starting to build a postdoctoral association that helps with the networking. And I would like to have a little bit more information about postdoctoral association with Anderson. Can you talk a little bit about YPA and your involvements with the association? And while you talk, I'll pull up the website of the YPA.
Yeah, sure. So this is a quite young association. It was founded around 7 years ago, but since then it's been growing quite a lot. And in my view, it has been transforming the experience of postdocs and also associate research scientists at Yale by exactly favoring networking, community building, because these are one of the main aims of the Yale Postdoctoral Association. In the YPA, we try always to create this sense of community engagement, and also we always try to allow a positive experience at the university by, for example, organizing events that are focused on professional development, like seminars and also workshops, but also social events, which due to the pandemic we had to stop for a while, but we have still been doing that via the internet by using Zoom, for example. And as Florian mentioned, we should never underestimate the power of networking, because we may meet someone from an unrelated field, and that person may eventually be your connection to someone in your field by many other means, because the person is of the same nationality of a researcher in your field. There are many ways for you to get connected indirectly to someone in your field by just meeting people that are from other fields and are, let's say, in the same level of your career. So I guess most of the people here, they are postdocs wanting to transition into a let's say academic career. And by being a member of an association, there are many benefits. I have just mentioned the benefits related to networking, which is one of those, let's say, transferable soft skills that we learn via extracurricular activities, because it's quite common to see people focusing a lot on research skills, and they sometimes forget to strengthen a little bit of other skills that they can also develop, like communication skills, networking, leadership, time management, project management. All of these soft skills, they are extremely necessary for a successful career. And by being a member of an association, you may gain some of these skills by taking part of trainings that such association may offer. But if you also join as an officer of that association, you would also have opportunities to strengthen such skills by organizing events yourself, by basically being the leader of a group that has a project within the association that has to be finished within a defined time. So all of these sort of non-research activities, they somehow teach us skills that are extremely helpful as well. in our academic career.
Thank you very much. And while you talk, I have the website of the YPA and on my screen. So it's ypa.yale.edu. And the people in the University of Arizona also have their own website. It's a similar association. It's uapostdocs.weebly.com. So you can go and check what you if you can make new connection. And I really agree that all the work that you will do if you're engaged in the leadership of this association is really, really helpful because you will start building connection, and also you will talk to leadership. And it's easy to talk to people on your level, on your peers, but it's also a different thing to start having to ask things to university leadership. And I think it's a good training also for the job talks, because that's what you're going to do. You're going to try to convince above your grade, and so I think it's a pretty important thing. And all the skills that you develop, maybe we can go back to Shruti and Nimran talking about like what kind of other skills do you need to have to build a research group? Because I think the more you go into faculty, your job is not to do the research as much as you do, but like more managing students and writing grants. And you have a ton of serving on panels at the universities and other activities. Can you talk a little bit more about these extra activities that grad students or postdoc are not necessarily aware of? Who wants to start?
Yeah, I can get started. So, yeah, you are right. So it's very different to be a PhD student or even postdoc with being a faculty member. So when I was a PhD student or postdoc, we just need to focus on one or two projects. You just need to think about how to do your experiment better and how to, so how to finish the experiment. But as a faculty member, I think the biggest change is that we don't really have a lot of time digging into the details of all the projects. But on the other hand, we still need to provide a big picture, guide the students, especially when we start a new group. So you are the most knowledgeable people in the group, but on the other hand, you have the least time to dig into the details of the experiment. I think that's the biggest challenge I've faced. So so I think it's good. It's better to balance the time you work on proposals, and also I still reserve quite an amount of time doing experiments with the student, at least for the first several years. So therefore we can accelerate the process. But I think it might be different from for a theoretical group. So I think Shruti can say more about that. But for experiments groups, I think that I treat myself as a half postdoc, at least for the first year. So I still do a lot of like experiments. I went into the clean room with the students together, just help them do the fabrication, do all the experiments. But after 3 years, when the first student or two students are well trained and they are good enough, then I can spend more time on other stuff.
Yeah, my sentiment is the same thing. I always say that having a research group is like having a startup. And so basically, whatever skills you need to have a startup is what you need. You need to be able to write grants and bring in money. You have to support your students. You do get a startup package, but that's not going to last you forever. And so the advice I was given was like, save that money as much as possible and just start writing grants from day one, which is what I did. It's not only that, you, as Linran also said, you have, you're not going to, you have to, prepare for your classes. You have to prepare your new courses that you're going to teach. You're going to write grants, so you don't yourself have a lot of time for research. So fortunately, in my case, right in the beginning, I had a student to join my group, and she was, pretty much at a good place. But I started like a quite different project, a different set of skill sets for her, but she caught on really fast. And so you need to be able to identify, fast learners, I guess, and take them on. And right now, she is so good that basically she's training the new students coming in. So she's really, you know, I would say I could not take more students on without her. I would not have the time to deal with everybody at that level. The other thing is, you know, again, like, you know, hiring postdocs and stuff, you need to be able to judge them. Like, you know, when they come give, you know, when you're interviewing them and they come give talks to you, you need to be able to ask the right questions and judge their capability. Again, hiring the right people is going to change your life. Like, I hired a postdoc who's good. I don't have to, you know, like just tell him like, okay, we're thinking about this, you know, go figure it out, and he figures it out. So right. So after a while, you need it to be a self-sustaining thing. You cannot be, you know, person who's actually writing codes or, you know, figuring out the math and stuff. So these are the skill sets that you don't necessarily have as a postdoc, but, you know, you need to develop.
Is there any place that like, how did you learn this skill? Like, is it on the job? Like, first day they just push you in the deep end and it's like, okay, you used to be a postdoc, now you need to interview, you need to write grants and all these things. Is there any resources somewhere that helped you?
I mean, I would say that especially for grants, I mean, like judging somebody's capabilities, like how do you teach that, right? You just like, you know, for me, it's like observe when people are giving talks, and hear what, you know, your advisors are saying about those speakers. So, you know, like just, you know, catch on to things that they're saying. So that's how you learn. Also ask, in my case, as a postdoc, I did not get a lot of chance to be involved in grants. I got a chance to involve in one grant, but not, you know, mostly for the scientific part, not so much the writing. But I would suggest that if there's one thing I could go back and redo again, would be ask my advisors, can I be a part of this grant? So I learned the procedure and I, you know, get some like training of how these things work, how you should present your work and so on and so forth.
And speaking of grants, I know a lot of universities are giving classes and resources, and there's grant writing. Are you familiar with this, Anderson? Do you want to talk about grant writing that can be offered by the postdoctoral affairs?
Yeah, so one thing that we have been, let's say, working a lot to make sure that we can offer to our members is exactly professional development events, especially workshops. We have been organizing workshops about grant writing, article writing, like scientific writing, let's say. And these are resources that we can get out of Yale, because Yale has many offices that organizes different sorts of workshops. They are experts on those specific topics and they can teach us, but we have to somehow connect with them and make such requests. And this is something that we are quite happy to see that the YPA has been this very important, let's say, intermediate facilitating that such training can let's say be offered to our members, because definitely having a method for writing grants and papers, this makes a huge difference. If you know how to structure things first before writing that can speed up the process, and the final piece would look much more cohesive, for example. And yeah, these sort of trainings we can get out of, let's say, being member of a local association of postdocs. And if such association does not exist in your location, you could even create your own and start things from scratch.
And this is what happened to me when so I did my PhD in France, moved to Yale as a postdoc, And then there was nobody to help. And so a bunch of postdocs that we met, mostly European because of the logical, the geographical connection. We had this mini network of foreigners that met at the office, the visa office at Yale, got together and starting to say like, hey, how can we help each other? Because I think that's also the trick on everything. Like you should network, you should help everybody. But I think if you find interest, like if it's useful to you, it's going to be useful to others. And so it's something that you can do. And we're talking about Yale and U of A a lot because this is our affiliations, but this is valid for all the university in the US and also in most of the world. I think the university are starting to see that people need resources similar to that to prep them for the job market. So they are offering workshop, and now with the pandemic, I think everybody shifted to a virtual world, and I'm pretty sure even if your university doesn't offer this kind of thing, you can find virtual workshops that you can attend or like view recordings online, like similar to one of these things. So it's really something that you should try to think about, because in an ideal world, you are really good at what you're doing in your research, but the key where you're going to be judged for the applications and for these things is going to be everything else. Can you be the extra, like are you the superstar in the field? And I think that's what people are looking in universities. And so, yeah, that was one thing. And also one thing that I want to add, we're talking about like how to get a job, but there's also an interesting thing, and I'm sorry, I'm going to bring the mood a little bit down, but not everybody's cut up to be a faculty member. And I think it's very important to realize, like, do I want to do that because it's the path that you want to do? Or is it because your advisor told you like, hey, this is what you do a PhD, you do a postdoc, and then you do a faculty. And so there's also something you need to think about, is that the kind of job that I want? And is it matching my skills and what I want to do? And there's a ton of different jobs in quantum. We're going to cover in the fall the startup world and the industry world. So there's going to be, I think there's also more and more option for a job in the quantum workforce. And so if you're scared about writing grants, or if you're scared about other things, that there's different possibilities. So we'll work on these things. We have another question in the chat, mostly for Shruti, because you went to 2 different rounds of application. They wanted to know if, is it better to wait a turn, like if you apply and then get a position that you could do better next time? Is it worth taking it, or would it look bad, similar to like burning bridges, if you decide to refuse this and then try to get a better option next year? What's your take on that?
But I think as long as, I don't know, you don't hit somebody over there, you're not gonna like burn any bridges. They're not like if you're called for an interview and you're not the first choice, or not one of the top 3 choices, it doesn't mean that you are bad, or you don't have the skills. It's just that you're not right now fit for the particular direction that the university is looking at. So to me, it doesn't show anything negative. That being said, I would say strike when the iron is hot. There are some key papers that you're going to publish in your career. When those hot papers come out, apply for a position. You need to be out there, and that's when you're going to be more popular. Don't wait for 2 more years, because after 2 more years, you may not have that another hot paper again, and then your chances are going to be lower.
You're talking about hot paper, and like, how do you can you both talk about how can you strengthen your application? Do you need to have teaching experience? Do you need to have grants? Like, what are the things you can do as a senior grad student or as a postdoc to like have a really strong case for the university to hire you?
Yeah, so I think, of course, first of all, we need to have a good research background. So that's the foundation for everything, I believe. And on top of that, I think that if you have some experience getting some grants as a PhD students or postdocs, I think that will add points to it. But I believe in terms of in the community of quantum information, I think there are not many chances for postdocs to write grants, I believe, because I know that for biology and medical schools, postdocs can apply for grants, but that's not very common in quantum information area. Yeah, but on the other hand, if you can at least write something or participate in some grant preparation, I think that would be very helpful.
Yeah, like I did not have any grants, and I've never applied for a grant. I didn't get any awards or anything like that when I was a grad student or early in my postdoc career. But what really you have to basically show that the research you're doing is important. It's changing the direction of something, whatever field you're in. And you can, not only that, you can pump out that new research for the next however many years. And you also have to establish your independence from your advisor. That was the one important advice that I was given. So it's as a postdoc, there's not a lot. Again, it depends upon your situation. You may have an opportunity to do it, you may not. Experimentalist, it's a little bit hard because it's the lab that your advisor has. So you basically do what's in the lab pretty much. For theorists, it's a little bit easier. You can come up, all you need is a paper and pen, so you can do whatever the heck you want to. So in my case, it was, I was able to demonstrate that my research is different from my advisor, and that I'll be able to continue that research into the future. So that's I would say is important.
And I would also say that maybe applying for a fellowship to be a postdoctoral fellow, it's a process that would somehow also teach us how to write a grant, because it's a short version of a grant that you have to think about how that project will be developed, what are the scope, objectives. Then you go through a process of selection. So this whole experience somehow starts to teach us how to write a grant. And if we get that, that is something that is quite valuable. It's seen as a sign of independence, that you are able to search for a grant and eventually get approval. So I would definitely advise trying to apply for a fellowship. It's something that would definitely advance your abilities and will give you much better chances to get hired.
Just one more thing that I forgot to say earlier was also try to get give as many talks as possible, including try to get invited talks. They do look at that. They want to know that your research is important, that people will actually, request for you to come and talk about your work, and rather than you just, applying to talk somewhere.
And regarding fellowship, there's more and more big centers, institute, and industry providing a postdoctoral fellowship. I know YQI has the YQI fellowships that actually are open right now, so you can apply. You have until November 15. Just putting it out there if you're interested. But there's also a ton of similar programs everywhere. So these are we call them gold star postdocs. It's similar to a regular postdoc, but they have a little bit of shine on it. So that might help you. It's not going to do everything, but it might shine a little bit of varnish in your application. That's also something you can do that might help a little bit. So looking at the last few questions that I have regarding inviting talks, how do you proceed for that? Is it similar to, we have a question in the chat about visiting scholars and visiting researchers during PhD and during postdocs. Is that something that you've done in the past, or is it something that we haven't seen, you haven't done in the...
I personally haven't done any visiting scholars or researchers and places. So the reason is because I'm an experimentalist. So is basically I need to focus on one experiment project, and we have already built up the capability in my own group. So there's no point for me to visit another group. But I do see a lot of theorists visiting other institutes, especially in many cases, I found it fruitful to have a theoretical researcher to visit an experimental group. And in many cases, I find that discussion is very helpful.
Thank you. And then I think one last thing that I want to talk about that was pointed by Shruti. I'm going to put the slide up. There's the CMAMO remote mail websites that has a ton of information about all the job posting. Did any of you use it for your applications, or like we're looking at the different openings, or is it something that's just a good thing to see the short list?
It's actually my first time to know this website.
Really? Well, for me, like I was told that this is where you basically live for the, during the application process. But no, like I did visit this website quite frequently to look for, new positions that are open and which I might not have heard about before.
Right. So actually, when I look for positions, I do realize that there's no centralized website or a good place that can have all the posted positions. So actually, Florian, I'm a little bit curious that you mentioned that you said there's 161 positions last year. I'm wondering how did you get that number?
So I went through actually this website. They have a list of everything, and so this one, the new posting for 2021. Have only 2 job posting right now, but if you go in the archive, you have all the list. It's an endless list of scroll through. It doesn't mean that there was 160 position. It just meant that there was like some openings, and I don't know if the university actually went through because of the pandemic and the job shortage, or like the freezing of the fundings. But yeah, that's something that's. This is where I found all the information, and then I was also cross-posting, like cross-referencing with all the job posting that have received, because we have an external announcement section on our website, and so this is I often get a ton of job posting from the other centers. Also, that's something like if you look for jobs, that's something that you can do looking at your university listing or your department. They might have a section. Usually, the chair of the department or your PIs received a ton of open position. You might be able to ask them to like, hey, if you see anything, just forward the email, because they usually don't have time to read it. But if they know that you're looking, like if you tell them, hey, I'm considering. I think communication with your advisor is really key, and like talk. I've seen people in conferences posting at the end of their talk, hey, I'm looking for position, I'm looking for jobs. Like, it's really important to like communicate what you want to do. Online presence is more and more important. So if you have a website, if you have a Twitter, like the Quantum Twitter is very active. It's a little bit sad to have everybody on social media working on like, keep working outside of your work on social media, but it has been pretty good resources to find job application for that.
If I can also add something on this topic of job posting, and this has something to do with what Florian has just mentioned. Twitter, it's a great resource of information about job postings. All the time, I saw like advertisements about job postings on my area. I'm not in the right moment to apply for them yet, but if I wanted so, just last week I saw one amazing job posting that was just passing through my timeline, and also Twitter is basically great for networking as well. I found my postdoctoral position through Twitter in a process of serendipity, by just clicking, and then suddenly I found this job posting. One thing that I always recommend, join Twitter and try to use that professionally by having your bio describing who you are, where you went in terms of your background, and you start following people in your field, because eventually you may see on their profile a job posting that you would never find it by Googling or by looking at mailing lists, because on Twitter you may by chance find such information that are quite useful, and such information comes from networking in this online environment.
Thank you very much for that comment or insight. We're almost out of time, so what I propose is we can go around and have like maybe the last advice of the hour, and then we can do around, and then I'll show you the upcoming events in this series. Okay, so like 30 seconds of wisdom from all of you. Like, what's the best thing you can do, or like maybe just best wishes, I guess. Who wants to start? Shruti, you want to go?
Oh Lord, I didn't think about this before. No, just I don't have much advice, but I just want to say that you know, when I was a postdoc, I was very unsure about, you know, being an assistant, you know, being a professor. Like I knew I wanted to be that, but I wasn't very confident, or I wasn't sure whether I was going to get, you know, the position I wanted or not. I would just say, don't be afraid, you know, put yourself out there. If you're not going to take risks, you're not going to get any reward. So just try it. If that's something that you want to do, don't worry about whether you think you're good or bad or whatever. Just give it a shot.
Linran, do you want to do last few words for them?
Yeah, I think as Shruti mentioned, that there are a lot of uncertainties when finding a effective position. My advice is that, well, so we should still keep focus on your research while you are searching for a position. So of course, in the good situation, you find a position and you are ready to move to start your new group. But in the bad case, so you should continue your work and prepare for the next round. So my suggestion is that keep going, continue with your current research work and focus on that while you are applying for a effective position. Yeah, thanks.
Thank you very much all for taking the time to talk to us. Before we wrap up this event, I would like to point out a few events that might be helpful. The C2QA, which is the Co-Design Center for Quantum Advantage, which is one of the national hubs that the government's put in place in the US. This one is the one that Yale is part of, out of Brookhaven National Labs in Long Island. Is hosting a quantum career fair on September 22nd. So if you're interested, go on their website and check it out. And then the next event for us, so we talked about a ton of different way to get involved in the quantum field, as either studying it in college, doing a PhD in grad school. We've talked about how to put all the chances behind you to become a faculty member. We're going to have 2 more events in this series, one in October to prepare for startup. The event will be on October 27 at the same time on Friday at 4 p.m. And then we'll have one later on industry jobs. So if you, we should have in the span of the full year covered all of the possibilities that you can do. And all the videos of these events are available on YouTube on our website. So if you go on quantuminstitute.yale.edu/videos, you should be able to see all of these events. Thank you all for joining us. I really appreciate your time and insight, and I hope you have really prosperity in your research groups. And Anderson, thank you so much for joining us and giving us all this insight about the YPA. Thank you all for attending, and have a good night.
Yeah.
Thank you, Florian.